Hey, fellow SciCommers, I'm super excited to let you know that this year's SciComm conference, hosted at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln and affectionately known as No Coast SciComm, will include for the first time ever a Science Slam. So to give you a little bit of history and background, if you're not familiar with the Science Slam format, it originated in Germany in 2006, inspired by the poetry slam genre, and really spread across Europe and took hold there as a great way to make science exciting, engaging, and meaningful to public audiences. We adopted this format here at the University of Nebraska and had our first Science Slam, what I believe was the first event of its kind in the United States in 2016, and have had great success and a great response to it. And I'm so excited to take that to the next level this year as part of the SciComm conference. So a Science Slam is a little bit different from every other science communication competition you may have been involved with before. And there are two key differences. And the first is the audience votes to decide the winner. So a lot of times when we're explaining our science to non-expert audiences, we're undecided about whether something that we might think is really special and important belongs in the talk. We think like, I'll throw it in there anyway, because our audience isn't really going to hold us accountable for whether they understood that or whether it was engaging or meaningful to them. But in a Science Slam, if you want to win the competition, the audience is always right. So the audience will decide the winner, so you're held accountable for your science communication efforts in that way. The other thing that's a little bit distinctive is that we give you a prompt to respond to. And that encourages you to frame your science more as a story, a little bit more of a narrative format, and also to think more deeply maybe about the nature of your relationship to science and society's relationship to science, as opposed to just, in quotes, the content of your science. So this year's prompt I'm really excited about was inspired by this comic that you see in some direction from me, depending on which venue or medium you're viewing this video, by Nathan W. Pyle, who writes Strange Planet. So if you haven't seen this before, go down the rabbit hole and read all of his comics. They're amazing. If you have seen it before, you may find yourself nodding along and saying, yes, producing a detailed tribute to one's wrongness. That is indeed science. The interesting thing about this is that I get that reaction from every scientist that I show this comic to, but it gets a little more complicated when we talk about communicating science to non-scientists or talking about scientific topics across the bounds of discipline and expertise. And that is particularly germane to our conference theme this year, which is sharing science in a polarized world. And I think we've seen in a lot of different contexts, particularly controversial topics and other topics that we never thought would be controversial, but suddenly seem to be, that wrongness we recognize from within science as a necessary part of the scientific process, but it can be interpreted quite differently by others and portrayed differently in the media. Scientists are always changing their minds. Why should we listen to any of them anyway? It's just, the guidance is just going to change. And so I think one of our challenges as we communicate our science is really to communicate about the scientific process and the role that wrongness plays in that. So it's not only important that we tell about our science in a sort of more narrative storytelling format that can be engaging, but the kinds of stories that we tell are also important. And so that's your challenge. And I don't know how to do it, but I'm hoping you're going to show me and you're going to show all of us by telling us about a time that you were wrong and what you learned from it, how you benefited as a researcher and also as a person, and really what we should all know about the role of wrongness in the scientific process and even scientific progress. So if you're selected as a finalist, you'll give a 5-minute talk on the day of the Science Slam. More details will be forthcoming about that. But in order to apply, we want you to submit a 90-second video application that will be like a trailer of your Science Slam presentation. So we'll be watching for the content of your presentation, yes, but also your narrative style, your creativity, how engaging you can make it. So, use props, sing songs, use whatever gimmicks you like. On the other hand, no gimmicks required. Just having a conversation with us is great too. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you all come up with. You guys, as we say colloquially and non-gender specifically in the Midwest, looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with and to seeing you strut your stuff at the first ever live streamed SciComm Science Lab.